Welcome to Horsefly Chronicles Radio with Julia and Philip Siracusa. Sponsored by Carnation. Airing live on United Public Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. This show's opening has been produced, edited, narrated by Gwen Luckett at gluckett.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monday night segment of Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Siracusa, and Phil Siracusa. We are broadcasting live from the United Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. You'll have to do a few things in order to participate in chat. Go to YouTube, UFO Paranormal Radio. You could go into all the Facebook stations, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, UFO Undercover with Joe Montaldo, News on the Flip Side, Twitch, SoundCloud, Podbeam, and of course, our group, Horsefly Chronicles Radio. And if you have any questions for our guests, please ask. So tonight, guys, we are back again for part 2 of our roundtable talk. So we have, please welcome to the show, Vanessa Hogle, Chinelle Gwartney, Reverend Dan Todd, and joining us tonight, welcome back to the show, Bobby J. Gallo. So guys, thank you all for coming back tonight. How was everybody tonight?
Good. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. You are always so much fun to have on. Thank you. So, I don't know, guys. I really kind of want to take it from the end. But before we do that, let's everybody just introduce themselves again, if they can. Did Vanessa, we lose her?
I think we did.
Yeah, all right, let me pop. Okay, hold on. There she is. Back.
No.
There she is. Here you go. Hello? Okay, good.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi. So just everybody introduce yourselves really fast, just so the listeners, if they don't know who you are or if they forget, who wants to go first? Bobby, you go first.
Okay, my name is Bobby J. Gallo, and I've been a paranormal researcher since 1989. And around 12 years ago, I started a paranormal investigative team with my own family, my wife and my 2 daughters. And we've traveled all over the country to some of the most haunted locations in America. The evidence that we've gathered over the years has been so intense. I actually wrote 2 books about it. Family Spirits, The Adventures and Evidence of Gallo Family Ghost Hunters, which hit number 3 on Amazon in the adventure travel category. And then Family Spirits 2, more recently, Purpose in the Paranormal. So I'm here to give any information that I can.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Chinelle.
Hi, I'm Chinelle Gwartney. I'm the co-founder of Elite Vixen Paranormal. We are an all-female paranormal team based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and we're coming up on 5 years as a team. So excited to be here again. Thank you.
Vanessa? Vanessa? She can't hear me.
Sorry, y'all just keep cutting out. It's so bizarre.
Okay.
It's just my energy. Hi, I'm Vanessa Hogle. I'm an author working on book 8 now. All previous 7 books written in the paranormal genre. And world traveler, make documentaries, things along those lines. So lots of fun.
Yay.
And I read tarot when I'm a psychic. So there you go.
Yes. Reverend Tan, tell us about yourself.
I'm Reverend Dan Todd. I am the pastor exorcist for St. Benedict's Anglican Church, as well as an exorcist in the Sacred Order of St. Michael's Order of Exorcists. Okay, I got that right this time. I've been in the paranormal field for the last, 23 years, 24 years. I've had many things happen to me, including a partial possession out in Gettysburg. So I've been around a little bit.
Phil, you want to tell us about yourself?
Well, hi. I'm the co-host of Horsefly Chronicles Radio. And if you don't know me, you better get off the air now.
Let's add a little humor to this. So,
Nice.
Bobby, I'm going to start with the first question for you because
Okay.
you weren't here last week. So we kind of like tackled a lot of topics, but the main topic, as you know, I want to ask you first, how would you approach someone who I guess doesn't really believe in anything at all after death? Like, how would you handle that topic? And have you can't come across anybody that is, I want to say, an atheist that just is, it believes like, when you die, it's like it's lights out. Like, how would you approach that topic?
Well, it's very difficult because the bottom line is anybody who is an out and out atheist, and I also like to call them materialists, nihilists. There's so many things that actually fit that genre. There's a lot of people that are actually atheists, which means they don't believe in God, but they do believe in an afterlife. Personally, I don't know how that works, but for the purposes of this discussion, I try to tell them, look, there's been a belief in an afterlife in every culture, in every civilization since the beginning of recorded human history. And a lot of these cultures had little or no contact with one another. I believe there's an innate belief in not only a higher power, but the sense that we go on after death. Because if you look at a lot of these cultures across the world, there's very similar there's very similar things that you could identify with each. And I think that they all try to understand it in their own way. So to say, and also look, let's face it. There's a difference. They say an atheist will say there's no proof of an afterlife. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's true. There's no scientific proof, but there are mountains of evidence, and evidence and proof are two entirely different things. There is enough evidence for the paranormal and the afterlife to win in a court of law. Just on anecdotal evidence alone. I mean, anecdotal evidence is called evidence for a reason. So when you look at all of the evidence that has spanned thousands of years over the millennia, and you put it all together, just use the law of averages. All it takes is for one encounter, one apparition, one experience to be genuine, and you've proven it all. So if you now say, I have all of these thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of pieces of evidence, experiences, I could go on and on and on. I think saying that there is no validity to any of it is much more far-fetched than saying that it exists.
I agree.
Absolutely. I second that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
In all honesty, I mean, while I appreciate the question and I think it's a good one, I've had plenty of people come to me and be like, well, they're agnostic or atheist or whatever it is, that they believe in. And I don't mean to sound weird, but it's not my job to convince them otherwise. Because in the grand scheme of things.
Can I quickly add one quick thing to this? I believe that a lot of people secretly do believe, even the people that profess to be atheists and materialists. I think a lot of them secretly suffer from psychological conditions such as phasmophobia or spectrophobia. I think they actually don't want to believe. I think they're so terrified of ghosts and the prospect of an afterlife. And I was actually told that by one, that the prospect of becoming a spirit that had no material form was terrifying to him. He would rather just die. So I think there's more people than we think that actually suffer from these conditions, which is why sometimes no matter how much evidence you present to someone like that, they will never believe because they don't want to believe.
You're right. Absolutely. And go ahead, Vanessa. That kind of like goes a little bit of what you were saying too.
It's not my place to convince anybody.
Yeah.
It isn't my place to convince anybody that one exists or one doesn't exist. People ask me how I can believe in all of the things I believe in, and I tell them that I wish I had the same choice not to that they do. But considering what I've been a part of and done my entire life, I mean, starting at the tender age of 2, I don't have that option. But you can lead that straight into the same question that I might have for somebody. And, how could they possibly believe in heaven or hell when the thousands of dead people I have spoken to have literally not mentioned it once?
Yeah.
Not once. Matter of fact, they have for the most part, let me know it is a 2-way street and they can come and go as they please. So I think, and that by no means me saying that is trying to cast shade on anybody else's belief system. Far from it. That's the beauty of free will and the fact that we have our own minds and our own brains that we can use is we can choose what to believe and what not to believe, and nobody else needs to take the mantle on to convince us otherwise.
That's true. And I always
I
say
think that's interesting.
it's not our job to make other people see things the way that we see them, but it's just I feel like it's a very interesting topic. And
Well, I want to jump in there really quick. Vanessa hit on something. She said that she's talking to or spoken to thousands of I guess souls, right, that have crossed over, and they don't talk about heaven or hell. Now that's interesting to me because then we flip the script and we talk about people who have near-death experiences who have been to heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. And I guess the question is, Reverend, do you think that they're stuck in the plane that they don't want to cross over to a light or go anywhere? They just want to be earthbound spirits, like Vanessa's describing it.
There are some that do, the whole unfinished business thing. I know my mother passed away in 2015, and she haunts my house as well as my brother's house. In fact, my brother actually called me the other day saying that there was something in his house and wanted me to come down and look at it and check it out. But, my mom is just looking after her grandchildren. She never got to meet her grandchildren, so that's her way. This is her way of meeting, of, I guess, babysitting them, because that's what she would have done if she was alive. But, the Bible does say that ghosts don't exist, that they're demons, but God will allow family members to come down, visit, and all that. So, like I said last week, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago when different times, different beliefs, stuff like that. And times have changed through those 2,000 years. So, our demons, maybe, demons can mimic anything that they want, In fact, I'm dealing with a case right now where one posed itself as Jesus to somebody, and that's one of the doors that got opened up. But I mean, the whole unfinished business thing, I've had spirits tell me that over EVPs and stuff. Ask them why they're here and use business or unfinished or something. Something would come over relating to that.
Reverend, I have a question for you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vanessa. Go ahead, Vanessa. Oh, Vanessa.
I'm sorry.
I think she froze.
Okay.
Okay.
On that same token, though, I totally understand, Reverend, what you're saying, and I completely support your viewpoint on that. But when we look at it in that context, that is basing an entire population worldwide based on the singular belief of a particular sector of religion.
Right.
You know, people
Right.
were living and dying long before the written word of man.
Right.
You know,
And,
they were
well,
coming
I'm
and
not
going
saying that you
long
have to
before
believe in. Right. I'm not saying, you know, you have to believe what I believe. You know, that's
Of
just,
course.
you know, that's how I was raised. That's, you know, that's my choice, my free will. You know, and I'm actually in a heated conversation about that with one of these prosperity preachers right now on Facebook. But it's, you know, you're free to choose whatever you want. You know, you're free to worship whoever you want. You know, the Bible says it. You know, you can worship whoever you want. You know, well, not really. I'm going to take that back. God tells us to not worship any other deity.
Yeah, I was about to say it doesn't.
Him, you know, other than him. But at the same time, it does happen. Jezebel worshipped, they call him a god, but I call him a demon, the demon ball. You know, and so, you know, so there, it's all about free will. You know, you choose your own destiny.
Reverend, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. You alluded to the saying that the Bible said that ghosts are demons. As far as I know, there are no passages in the Bible whatsoever that state that ghosts are demons. That's even the Catholic Bible that includes the 7 books of the Apocrypha that
Right.
Luther threw out during the Protestant Reformation. I know that fundamentalists are very eager to say that all ghosts are demons, but what they do is they cite biblical verse that says the dead know nothing, so therefore if there are ghosts they must be demons. And in the 1500s there was this Protestant reformist who actually wrote a book that stated such, and King James, who wrote the King James version of the Bible, picked this up and ran with it, which started actually the witch hysteria. But as far, and I could see Chinelle, she's shaking her head. I could get the exact name of that book because I actually wrote an article on it, but it's
Demonology.
It's
Demonology.
It's not that one. I know which one you're talking about. It's of spirits that walk by night, I believe it's called, by Ludwig. I'll get the name for you. But anyway, be that as it may, there's actually a history that can trace back why current Christians believe that ghosts are demons. For the first 1500 years of the church, that wasn't the case. The church accepted the existence of ghosts. This is only within the past 500 years.
Well, I said last week, and I've said it numerous times, you know, when Jesus walked on the water, the apostles thought he was a ghost.
Exactly.
So it just proves that yes, back then they did believe in ghosts and they did see ghosts. You know, there's a couple other verses that I'm not really. I know them. I don't like the way they're written. You know, that's why I use Jesus walking on water. But so as far as the whole demons versus ghosts thing, I don't know. I choose to believe that ghosts are ghosts, demons are demons. You know, because of my personal experiences.
Ludwig Lavater was his name, and you should really. This is a great book, and this just predates the King James version of the Bible, and I truly believe this is what started at all of that. It's called Of Ghosts and Spirits Walking by Night. It was written in 1596 by Ludwig Lavater.
Huh.
I'll have to look that up and purchase it.
15. Well, it's free.
It's public, my collection over here.
Reverend, it's public domain. You can download this for free.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's 1596.
If it's free, it's for me.
That sounds like Bill always says that. Oh my goodness.
This is the book that started it all. Guarantee you.
I'll definitely check it out.
Great.
I want to talk about the channeling spirits that we kind of like left the show between that and we were talking about possession. So let's talk about the difference between channeling spirits and possession, because Vanessa said last week that when she channels, she has no memory of it. So could it be the channeling and the possession? What is there any like possible word I'm looking for?
Now,
you know what I'm, yes.
If you'll remember back, Julia, what I said, at least I hope y'all heard it because I was clicking in and out. In the beginning, I had absolutely no memory. I relied solely on witness accounts and the fact that I was ending up blocks and blocks and blocks away from where I started. After my second trip to Ireland, I was actually able to kind of learn, well, not after, during, kind of learn how to keep part of myself in there so that I was able to not only give them a voice, but I was able to understand the process a little bit myself and protect myself because I mean, let's face it, I get hurt a lot. When I channel. My body goes through a beating, and it's a whole lot better when you know what's going on. so you can stop that part of it. Okay. I can at least give the dead some semblance of a voice and a way to express themselves without being a punching bag. So I have learned that. It just took me 50 years.
Only 50 years.
Only.
What are you going to
We
do?
haven't heard from Chinelle.
No. Yeah, Chinelle. Yeah, Chinelle did say she kind of like put the science part in there and asked the question after an exorcism, are you knocked out really quickly, and how would you kind of like get back after like being knocked out? I'm just going
I've never done an exorcism, so. But I mean, I think that we were talking about last week. Now y'all have slept a little bit since then. But like that come up when we were talking about like the chemical reactions that happen when like people have like that adrenaline rush. Yeah. And all of that. And you know, like when you have a toddler who has a temper tantrum, afterwards they're knocked out because they've drained, like they've used so many chemicals in their brain to cause that temper tantrum or have that temper tantrum.
Not my 4-year-old. The tantrum keeps going and going and going. It's like the Energizer Bunny.
But yeah, and I think that I was asking, like, I can't remember, Dan, if I had asked you if like your clients would go to sleep, or Vanessa, if I had asked you if you would go to sleep after channeling. But I think that I might have. Like I said, I slept a little bit, so forgive me.
Both opinions. I mean, I can tell you I could tell you case I was at Saturday night. We didn't have to do anything to get it to manifest. I mean, there's a pin that I have on my jacket here. It's a St. Benedict's medal. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a mini St. Benedict's medal, and it was just sitting like it is now on the chair that I was sitting in, and she was just staring at it, and she didn't like it. And then I have a big one that I give people, and it manifested, and she chucked that across the room. But she when it manifests, it drains her. It drains her energy. So when I actually did say the Saint Leo the 13th prayer over her a couple times, it used her energy to try and fight me. I mean, we started in a chair and we ended up on the floor. And but by the time we were done, I mean, she was physically just like could barely get herself off the floor. Yeah. So, I mean, they do use your energy. They do use everything. They use whatever they can get their grubby little hands on.
So, was this an obsession or a full-on possession?
I'm not sure if it's. I'm still trying to figure out if it's still it's a transient possession is what it is. It's not a full possession. It goes in and out. And as far as how it manifests, she definitely has the aversion to religious objects, like the St. Benedict's medal. She chucked it across the room. And then I snuck some holy water in her drinking water, and she drank that, and she just went berserk after that. So
wow.
I mean, it was physical. I mean, unfortunately, we were in our house, so we had to stop at some point.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I have a question. Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Bobby.
Nope.
So in a situation where you have to stop doing that, sorry, it's my own curiosity. How does that look? Like, what do you do? Are you just like, okay, well, we got to go now, see you bye, and let her sleep? Or like, what precautions do you take to protect her and her family? I'm really intrigued. That's why I'm asking.
Everybody that's present gets anointed with oil, as part of protection. As well as we say Michael prayer, as well as the day before or the day of prior to, depending on time wise. Like Saturday, I went to church. I did a confession. I did a mass Saturday morning. Yeah, Saturday morning. I was off my schedule. Had to think about that for a minute. I also went to the church after confession, and I prayed. I prayed to Jesus. I prayed to Mary. I prayed for the saints to help, as well. And so I called on Mary, the saints, Jesus to work through me and help me drive whatever's in her out. We were able to get one out, which is, I call it a win. And we were able to gain some information from it that we will definitely use against it. I ended up coming home with her bedroom mirror because it said it came out of her mirror. And when we told her that, she kind of freaked out and said, "Get it out of my house." So
There.
Did you get any names? Did you get a name?
Mm-hmm.
no, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
We didn't get the information until I would say around midnight or so, and at that point people were sleeping in their apartments, so we didn't want to to actually do where we have a church that a friend lets us use for these types of situations, so we don't have to worry about bothering anybody, and plus it gives us more power over the entity in a church. So
I know. I listened to the last
Real
broadcast.
quick, I want to just interrupt just for a moment because I was having a hard time hearing some of that. Two things. One, there's I know now, based on what Chinelle was saying and what Reverend Dan was saying, there's a very real difference between channeling and exorcism and possession, because I'm not exhausted after channeling. I am starving, absolutely starving, and I could eat a house. Okay. So there is a very real difference, because I mean, the amount of food I can put down is impressive. Okay. When I'm doing that. But Reverend Dan, if you don't mind, and I could be completely wrong, but I just want you to put this in the back of your mind for the case that you're talking about. There are 3 things that need to be checked for her. One is her blood sugar levels. You're going to notice if she can keep track of that, or if her family can keep track of that, it will be when her blood sugar drops when she's most vulnerable. The other is her hormones. Her hormones are fluctuating. So based on medicinal input and to be blunt, the time of the month, that will absolutely dictate how easy she is to take over. The other is the exceptional unhealed trauma that happened between the ages of 11 and 13.
I was going to ask about psychological disorders. Like, I was going to see, is she been seen by a psychiatrist?
She said anything about that, but I'm going to write that down and I'm going to ask her about it.
You know, Chinelle, the last show that you did on this, I took note of what you were saying about how this mimics schizophrenia, and I think even on a show that I was on with Phil and Julia, we actually talked about this. One of my team members came under attack, and it was an oppression, and it was so bad. We went to the doctor, and she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And when I asked the doctor, I says, well, you know, when could we expect this to subside? And the doctor says, never. She's going to have to be on medication for the rest of her life. And it was at that point I got a priest, an exorcist, and a shaman involved. And once we got rid of the entity, she had a spontaneous remission. And this was 10 years ago. and there has never been any symptoms since.
Yeah.
So my opinion is, for somebody who lived through this and saw this, and when I say she had all the symptoms of an obsession, including the smell of sewage throughout the room and all of these classic signs that I was always skeptical about until I saw it. Until I had this experience, I can now confidently say that I think a lot of people that are diagnosed with schizophrenia are actually going through some sort of spiritual oppression or possession.
Yeah.
I'm not saying in all cases, so please don't mean I'm saying that, but in my case, absolutely. And the medical profession will always, by default, they're always going to diagnose it as schizophrenia or bipolar or something like that, because they can't throw out the possibility of the supernatural. They just can't do it.
I think I touched on that last week.
You did.
Yeah, how like they're going to go right to that in our culture. But if you go to other parts of the world, Eastern cultures, people that we would diagnose with schizophrenia, they're going to review it like they're going to be prophets. They're going to be people that are God's chosen ones.
100%.
That's just that's our American culture.
Yeah, but I just wanted
it's also true to have
that in the last show.
Yeah, it's also not uncommon to have. Well, it's not as common, but it's not uncommon to have be diagnosed with schizophrenia and have a possession. That does happen. It has been documented. It's not very common, but it does happen.
I'm sure it does. Just in our case, that spontaneous remission after we got rid of the entity was so amazing. I mean, the doctor couldn't believe it. The doctor had no explanation for it. And but the priest, the exorcist knew exactly what it was.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have tests. Replacing water with holy water is one of them without the person knowing.
I mean, my friend, I'm going to bring up the shaman because this is like a totally non-Christian thing. So this kind of validates everything else. He was doing drumming to get rid of it, but the drumming was happening like 5 states away, and she could hear it. And she was saying, "Stop the drumming. It's driving me crazy." And he wasn't there. He was doing it remotely, and she could hear it 5 states away. And she just would go, "Stop the drumming, stop." Things like that she couldn't even possibly know was going on.
That's one of them too.
How can you discount that?
Yep.
Can't.
I mean, come on. If you're telling somebody the lottery numbers for the next lottery drawing and they're true, you're either a prophet, which God will not do, or something, or you're.
Let's face it, y'all. In the grand scheme of things, Marilyn Monroe could drop down from a supposed heaven and wiggle on somebody's face, and if they don't believe, they're not going to believe. That's just
absolutely.
To believe. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
And no, go ahead, Vanessa.
Well, no, it's just, and I guess that's one of the reasons why, over my many moons of doing this, the one thing that I said I was never going to do was try to convince a non-believer, because I can't.
Right.
And I will never forget. I did a show years ago with Noreen Sampier-Balovich, and I was reading pictures. And I've told y'all this before. Everyone that came through, I mean, I was viewing those pictures and telling them what I was getting from them. And then there was this one picture where I got nothing. I got nothing from it. And this person got so mad. Yeah. And I asked them right there, live show, I said, "Why do you care? Why do you care what my opinion is?" I said, "You don't know me. I don't know you. I'm telling you what I see. But I wasn't there and you were, and you took the picture and you had the experience. So do you care what I say?" And it was just like crickets, And I mean, that's kind of the stance that I've taken on it. I will tell my stories all day long. If you believe them or not, I don't care. I mean, it's that simple.
I've seen a lot to believe some of the stories. I mean, I'm sure everybody has.
Yeah.
You know, some of the things I can't even explain myself, and nobody can. You know,
Reverend, I have a question for you, and I want you to think about the question. Has a blind person ever been possessed?
Oh,
Good question.
to my knowledge, I can't answer that because I don't know.
Okay, you can't answer because you don't know, and that's a good answer. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because of this: the power of belief. You had said that a person was possessed, and the Saint Benedict's, she was able to throw them. My question is, and Chinelle, you can chime in on this one, because I want to know: has a deaf and blind or blind person ever been possessed where a religious object is held to them and they had the same reaction to the religious object, not able to see it or hear what you are bringing to them to remove the entity? Because if we can do that, and if there is such a case, we can prove that these objects that we do use to remove certain entities is more than the power of suggestion, more than psychosomatic and the power of thought. It is what it is. Right. Chinelle?
I don't know, because once again, I don't specialize in like exorcism. So like, you know, Reverend Todd, I can't say if anybody has ever been blind or deaf and has been possessed, but I do think that the power of suggestion and pareidolia hold a lot of value in people that, you know, like think that they're possessed or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because like, how many times have we all gotten phone calls or something and it's like, oh, there's something in my house, and it's like, but is it a raccoon in your attic? You know what I mean? Where they're just, and especially when, like Vanessa said, when you look at like trauma and recent trauma, things like that can cause manifestations, that can cause your mind to trick you. Our mind is such a powerful tool. And if we look at a mirror long enough and we think, oh, there's somebody standing behind me, your brain is going to actually make you see something standing behind you that's not there because of the power of suggestion. So when you look at blind and deaf people that can't see or can't hear, I mean, they might not be as prone to possession or as prone to thinking that they're possessed, just because those variables are removed.
That's something to really.
Do you think
senses are heightened? You know, their senses are heightened with that. But I would say that, going from what I've seen, I would say that whether they're open, how do I put this? Like they're an open door, that I can't tell you. But if a blind person or a deaf person miraculously can see or hear, I want to know why.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was thinking, actually.
Yeah. And so Satan will give you gifts. He will pose as Jesus or God. And
mimic.
He will give you the gift of sight, the gift of whatever. You know, he'll give you $1 million. Look at Kenneth Copeland. I mean, that guy, I've never met a more possessed. I've never seen a more possessed guy in my life. Okay. Now going back to the power of suggestion, and I'm going to mention this guy's name, Bob Larson. And I actually just realized this the other day watching a video exposing him. If you watch a Bob Larson exorcism, okay, and I say that loosely, listen to what he's saying. Okay, he'll be asking for a name. It'll say Jezebel, and he'll start rattling off, oh, you're this, you did this, and then, or you're slithering like a snake, and then all of a sudden you'll see the person start slithering like a snake. You know, so the power of suggestion is there. Do I use it? No, I don't. In fact, when our client Saturday manifested, I just sat there. I sat there and let it go and to see how long it would manifest to see what it would give us. And then after that is when I started asking questions.
Well, just because something happens in the mind doesn't mean it's not real. I mean,
No.
before the paranormal, the word paranormal was coined, we called this psychic phenomena. This is what we called it. And why did we call it psychic phenomena? Because it happens in the mind. Now, when I say the mind, I'm not necessarily talking about the brain. I'm talking about consciousness. And if you start, but this is a slippery slope, and it would take a whole show just to talk about this. But if you read Biocentrism by Dr. Robert Lanza, where he postulates that consciousness creates all reality, then honestly, your thoughts are physical things to an extent. And can cause these phenomena, but it doesn't mean they're fake. They still could be real. And when we say go into an investigation with good intention, what's intention? That's just a thought. But that positive intention, that positive energy, those are real tangible things when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah. I mean, you can go into investigation with anything, good intentions, and still end up with an attachment at the end. It's happened to me.
Oh, I'm not saying that that's what happened to us. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there's two things that we kind of like ended the show with too. When someone is possessed, Phil asks, could it be dimensional beings? Could it be, something from a whole different
Absolutely.
thing? And what do you
Highly possible.
It absolutely could.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discount it.
Until,
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I mean, because you have to look at what we're looking at today. I mean, if people bring religion into it, and have to label certain things, not talking about you, Reverend Dan, please don't take offense, or anybody. But when you bring religion into it and you have to put a certain viewpoint on it, the viewpoint that we have today isn't of the same person that they had when Jesus was around. They don't even look the same. It's not, it's what we know now to be Jesus is the Renaissance painted version. It isn't the same. I mean, it's when so none of us truly know. None of us. We are what we say, what we act like. None of us truly know until we pass what is going on when that light goes out. None of us. So could God be, some little dude on a planet, some joystick like an Atari, just going to town? 100% possibility. 100%.
Absolutely.
Because none of us know.
And you mean like Lego Batman?
Anybody that claims that they know for a fact, A, they're delusional, and B, they really need to sit down and have a good think.
I mean, I go into every case with an open mind.
Just my opinion.
I go into every case with an open mind just because of what I've seen throughout my life. What I've experienced. You can't go in one-sided. If an alien can possess somebody, that's great. I hope I do the exorcism. That'd be great because as it's coming out, I want to take that picture.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I have actually seen a craft, and it is not something I ever care to see again, because out of everything I've seen, and this is even something that I've even seen something others might consider to be demonic. I don't know. I know it wasn't human. I know it was the most vile thing I've ever seen. Even that didn't compare to the craft I saw. Wow. Hovering 1,000 feet above a house in Oklahoma. That was as big as a football field, but made no noise. And shot straight up in the air. Never got bigger, never got smaller. And I could see it 1.5 miles in advance. My son was 9 years old, saw it too.
Wow.
I can go all day long and see that again.
I wish I could see 1.5 miles.
That's crazy. And then And then Phil, did you ask to Phil? Do you think that we're heading to the end of time? Was a question that you asked during, like, towards the very end of the show. Are we heading to the end of time? No.
I think that,
Kind of
so
feels
and I think that time is like a human construct, right? And it's a social construct. So when you look at like the universe, time doesn't exist. So I think that that's like a subjective question. Like, I think that each of us is going to come up with our own opinion, you know, based on, well, time could be, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to manifest it. But something bad could happen and I could no longer be here shortly, you know?
Well,
Or when you look at like the world as a whole, like from a Christian lens, they've been saying for, and Reverend, you could probably answer this much better than I can, but the last millennia, well, I guess 2 really since Jesus passed away, that that the end of time is coming and it's coming soon. But here it is 2,000 years later, and we're still here. We're still here.
Well, C.S. Lewis, the famous Christian author, once said that, if you take a piece of paper and you draw a straight line which represents time, God is the paper. So it's like there's, God is everything. He's time, he's space, he's the universe. It's just all encompassing. So time would be an illusion, basically, is what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to say shout out to people in chat: Lena, Nicole, Mary, and I can't see. That's the problem, guys. I can't see my eyes. I'm like legally blind.
Marvelous Harry is there as well.
Yes,
Harry. Really hard time seeing. Need to give them all a shout out. Phil, give me some questions.
Well, no, the time thing, it was a prophetic thing of like Nostradamus predictions. What's happening in the world right now. I was going on that end of the world's chaos has never been as bad as it is and what we're starting to see. It's unfolding in front of us. And I guess that's where I was going, not time because time doesn't exist, but the timing of what we're living through is just where the predictions
I don't necessarily think that's true though, Phil. Yeah, the world, we've been in this chaotic stance before in the world. Absolutely 100% we have. The only difference between today and times past is the fact that it's advertised. Not only do we know of our own grief and turmoil and chaos that we have in our own individual lives, but we know of it in other societies and in other parts of the world. So we are bombarded with it daily. It's less local. But there has, having traveled the world like I have and actually been immersed in the history, it's not a lot different. I mean, all you have to do is go back to the time of the Crusades and see how horrible that was.
Right. But if you look at that, right. But if you look at that, I got to jump in there on that, because if you look at that, things that we're finding out that did exist and who believes in City of Atlantis and who doesn't, it's kind of like, yes, everything did become extinct many times. And I guess that's where I was going with that. Are we on the world? Everything has been extinct. Dinosaurs are extinct. The City of Atlantis doesn't even exist, but it does exist. And we're finding artifacts now that we can't even understand. So are we in that cusp of mankind once again destroys itself and we go back again?
Well, the thing is, and this is what's funny, to put everything that you just said into perspective for anyone who is watching or listening, less than 8% of the living beings that have ever walked this earth, both animal and human, are alive today, which means that 92% of any living, breathing being no longer exists. If that doesn't put into perspective how finite our life is, not infinite, but finite. If that doesn't put that into perspective, I don't know what does. Do I believe that we are all heading for extinction as a human race? Absolutely not. Do I believe times are a changing and that you better know a trade because we're going to go back to trading? Money will be a thing of the past in the future? 100%. The term pagan technically means country dweller. We were the ones that the churches could not tax because we had no monetary value. That's where the world is going back to. That's why it is important to get out from in front of these and learn how to do something, learn how to create, learn how to build, learn how to do something. Because we as a society have jacked up so much that we have put ourselves on that brink. And we will be going back, if not in my lifetime, in my grandchildren's lifetime, we will be going back to a society that lives community style, where they're dependent on each other. I firmly believe that. We've done that amount of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that.
Anybody have to
I
say?
personally think that
Anyone?
we're gonna.
Bueller?
Well, I think that like humans, we are gonna be our own demise.
Mhm.
That's
true.
You know, because like way back in the day, they had a lot of technology that we have, but they didn't have things like technology didn't get to the point of like the atomic bomb. At least not that we know of. And when you look at the current political climate of what's going on within the world, and I'm not trying to make this look like political, but it's kind of really scary, you know, because there's a lot of things that are going on. And like when we look at like Israel and all of that, my dad had said something to me a couple months ago, like, and I don't even think it was a couple months ago. It was like maybe I'd say a month and a half ago, actually, about, oh, well, Israel just got bombed. And I was like, you know, by like the Islam or Hamas or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so, you know, they're fighting a political war or a religious war that's been going on for 1,000+ years. And I wasn't really like shocked by it. But with what has happened within the last like 2 weeks, and this is exactly what Vanessa's talked about, that shock value, how something happens, we find out about it within seconds because of media. And I was like, you know, just seeing everything and then hearing about like Russia and all these other things, like, oh, maybe I do need that bunker underground.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think we all need one of those.
Yeah, computers are going to take over. It's all going to be like Terminators.
Oh, don't start with
no.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a whole nother
That's
show.
a whole theory too.
I've already set it up with my son. When I hit that age, I'm going to have my little arched cabin out on land somewhere that he owns, and he's just going to plug my house into his house, and I'm going to live off the land because I'm about done with this.
Listen, that's why we had kids. I mean, they have to do something with us.
Be that little old, scary, gray-haired, long-haired lady.
I'm just trying to understand ghosts. That's all I care about right now.
Well, guess what? We're all going to be one soon, right?
Yeah, that's where you
Bobby,
learn.
honey, good luck. Good luck,
And
because like I said,
the days are going by real fast. I'm telling you, it's going by real fast, and it's sad. It's sad.
It is.
It's sad. I mean, you look up and it's like, you know, morning to night, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
you
I'm
know,
going to be 60. I'm going to be 60 in March. I said I'm more than halfway there. I got.
You really might as well enjoy the rest of your life. But let's do some plug-aways.
What's
Wait,
that
what?
for?
Let's do some plug-aways, which means that each one of you, because we only have 5 minutes left to the show, each one of you talks about something you want to get across to people and where they can find you, your niche in the paranormal community.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
So,
first.
Bobby Gallo, we'll start with you.
Okay. My entire paranormal world can be found at ghosthunter.ws, not .com. www.ghosthunter.ws. There you can see our web series. There's links for our books and everything else that we've ever done. So that's where people can go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Chinelle, go ahead.
Chinelle?
Yep, I am. If you want to find me, I'm Elite Vixen Paranormal on everything. Google, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, all of it. You just search Elite Vixen Paranormal, and that's where you'll see me. You'll see my team. Also, my thing that I love to do is I actually specialize in psychology in the field. So if you ever need like a psychological input or whatever, like just contact me. I'd gladly do that for you.
Very cool.
Yes. Vanessa?
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick. Again, hi, Vanessa Hogle. It's just easier to Google Vanessa Hogle. 9 times out of 10, I'm on my Facebook page, but I have TikTok and Instagram as well. Watch out for November 11th. My 8th book is coming out. It's called Born Wicked. And it is actually basically a Southern woman's guide to magic, manifestation, spell work, the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah. And I talk to dead folks. So if you need one, holla.
That person. I see dead people. My turn. All right. Well, my websites are kind of. I'm in the process of changing them over because I got hacked and everything was connected to my Facebook. So you can still find us on our websites, but I'm going to say contact me on Facebook, Reverend Dan Todd, SOSM. Or St. Benedict's Anglican Church, or New Jersey Ghost Detectives Order of Exorcists. But if you're having a demonic, you feel you're having a demonic issue, and you're not in like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Maryland, that area where I can't get to you, contact the Order of Exorcists at www.orderofexorcists.com, and one of our teams that are global. We are a global organization. We'll get in touch with you and see what's going on.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much again.
Reverend Dan, real quick, would you Reverend Dan, would you please don't forget what I said.
No, I have it written down.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Insight.
Thank you everybody for coming on tonight. We appreciate it. It was a fun show. It was a nice closing to the 2-part show, so thank you. We have to have a special thank you to Carnation for fully sponsoring the show from day one. We love them. And join us next week on the United Public Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. So thank you guys for joining us, and thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody in chat. Have a great night, and till next time.
And with that closing, I just want to say one thing. On the last 2 episodes of Horsefly Chronicles Radio, each and every one of these guests are fabulous, intelligent, and definitely give a lot of insight. And reach out to them if you have to. Go to any one of their fields. And guess what? Ghosts do exist. Have a great night, everyone.
There you go. God bless.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.